Good morning. First off, I appreciate how difficult it is for everybody to kind of squeeze in and squeeze out, and I apologize we don't have a bigger room for the meeting. It would have been worse if it done in my hideaway. So I was delighted to see her again. The judge and I have known each other for years. She is on the Second Circuit, which is the circuit I'm admitted to. I've argued a number of cases before the Second Circuit, and I've watched her in there, watched her as a district judge, as a Second Circuit Court of Appeals judge. She makes me think of Justice Souter, somebody with a great legal mind, impeccable credentials. She's confirmed she'll be the only member of the court with experience as a trial court judge, which I think is extremely important because you have a different perspective as an appellate court judge than as a trial court judge. Also, from a personal point of view, I'm always glad to see somebody who served as a prosecutor. I think if you served as a prosecutor, you've been in law enforcement, you really have an understanding of both the good and the bad of life. And I was pleased to see that the dean of all the prosecutors in this country, Robert Morgenthau, wrote an op-ed piece strongly praising her. I'm glad to see her restrained as a judge. We don't need somebody who's going to be undercutting Congress, second-guessing, or being an activist, and she's not. I had wanted somebody outside the judicial monastery. Here's her background was such that she had a lot of experience outside the judicial monastery. So I think whether you're from the South Bronx, the south side of Chicago, or South Burlington, Vermont, your life experiences do shape you. She's never forgotten where she is from. I'll be meeting with I'll be meeting tomorrow morning with Senator Sessions to talk about this again on scheduling. But let me just say one thing on a personal point of view. I know how difficult it is for somebody who's nominated. They can't answer charges. They can't speak out while they're a nominee. It's a lot different than those of us who run for elective office and we're in a debate a day. I think some of the attacks made against her have been among the most vicious I've ever seen by anybody when you have the leaders of the Republican Party. One called her the equivalent of the head of the Ku Klux Klan. Another called her a bigot. The one thing that gives me any consolation is the senators, the Republican senators, have not done that, and they've resisted from it. Because you come down to the end, there's only 101 people who get a say in her going on the court out of 300 million Americans. First and foremost, of course, the president making the nomination, then the 100 senators and voting on it. So, any questions?
It's your choice.
No, thank you for asking. Normally, as you know, I don't talk about what a nominee says to me. I've been here for, I think I voted on everybody who's on the Supreme Court, plus Chief Justice Rehnquist as chief, and Senator Dale O'Connor as an associate judge. When I meet with them, I never talk about it, although I did raise that question. And I asked her if she had any problem with me referring to her answer. She said, none whatsoever. What she said was, of course, one's life experience shapes who you are. But ultimately and completely, and she uses words, ultimately and completely, as a judge, you follow the law. There's not one law for one race or another. There's not one law for one color or another. There's not one law for rich, a different one for poor. There's only one law. And she said, ultimately and completely, a judge has to follow the law, no matter what their upbringing has been. I think of my own basic upbringing when I was a prosecutor. I had to make up my mind based on what the law was and what somebody had done, not what might have been my own background.
Senator, one of the things that the president said is that she probably didn't use the correct language in trying to make her use clear. Did she say that to you? Did she say maybe I didn't use the word?
No, she told me what her philosophy was. She's probably given hundreds of speeches. She's written hundreds of opinions. She's handled a huge number of cases. I look at it in the totality, but I asked her what is her philosophy. And her philosophy was that the law completely, ultimately and completely, determines. And I think that's, I find that very, very satisfactory. We'll have hearings, and some have recommended we have hearings this month. She was nominated last month. I feel that's too soon. I want to have, so it won't be in June. I want everybody to have a chance to read. Senator Sessions and I worked together to get a questionnaire. The questionnaire was sent from both of us, a bipartisan questionnaire, which I think will be back here in the next couple of days. We got our background check, which of course was fine. So we'll decide when the hearing's going to be, but I'll tell you one thing that will motivate me to go sooner rather than later. When you have vicious attacks, when leading Republicans call her the equivalent of the head of the Ku Klux Klan and call her a bigot, totally false and outrageous charges, there's only one place she can answer those charges would be in a hearing. I want her to have a chance to answer those charges.
Senator, to be clear on that first question, did you answer?
Later rather than sooner.
How would you
Go ahead.
We're getting to John Harmon, but Republicans would like you to take a Senate vote later rather than sooner. Are you on track to think, or would you like to see a Senate floor vote in July then?
Well, that has to be decided by the floor vote will be decided by the leadership, Harry Reid.
Handicap that vote?
I won't. I never have. I mean, some of you know me. Well, you're far too young to know this, but some of you know me for 35 years. You know, I never handicapped leader. I can talk without it. And what will motivate me? I'll be fair. I mean, we're not going to do it in June. I want everybody to have a chance to read, but they have all. And we asked them, the Republicans, "Would you like a list of our cases?" We had the whole list. They said, "No, we already have." And remember, people started talking about this nomination in January, so it's not like it's a big surprise. And but because of the unfair attacks on her, she'll get a chance to answer.
Senator, could you clarify your first answer? I was unclear whether you had or had not directly asked about better than a white man.
No, I just asked the General Latina question, and she said that everyone brings their life experience. I do, everybody else as you do. But completely, the law is what controls. You know that Justice Alito talked about his experience, his background, child and grandchild of immigrants. Of course, that makes up who he is. I don't recall anybody, Democratic or Republican, complaining about him saying that. You remember President George H.W. Bush spoke about Clarence Thomas as a man who would have empathy. I've heard that word recently, and nobody complained about that. So let's stop grasping at straws as some have. The question is, will she follow the law? I'm convinced that she will. She has for years, both as a trial judge and as a Circuit Court of Appeals judge. The law has always been the controlling factor. that and the fact that because of her background, she knows the law better than most people.
Senator,
I'll take Glenn.
Senator, at the end of the process, do you think those comments are going to be a hurdle for her?
On gun ownership rights, the issue very important to Vermont. She ruled in the Maloney case, the Seventh Amendment does not apply to state law. Do you have any concerns?
That was before the Heller case, wasn't it?
That's the part. So, do you have any?
She'll be asked that
Do you have
question.
concerns about her ruling?
You know, I can't speak for people who have restricted gun laws like Arizona and Texas and those things, or Wyoming, or Alaska. These restricted liberal states have gun laws. I always speak about our state, which let me finish, has no gun laws. I don't see her trying to overrule Vermont's rules. I said one more about it.
Is the September hearings still on the table as a possibility, or do you think that's not in the cards?
With the attacks that have been going on against her, I think it's probably irresponsible to leave her hanging out there that long. Thank you. I've known her. There's no foundation. I've known her for years. I knew her as a district court judge. I knew her as a court of appeals judge. And I'm proud of my Irish-Italian background. I'm proud of my wife's French-Canadian background. Does that make us racist? She's not a racist.
Senator, tell us, Judge, I just want to make sure, just so we report this accurately. Could you specifically ask her, can you clarify the comments that we've all seen? Is that,
Sure.
Is that how you asked
Yeah,
her the
I
question?
did. You know, what about that? How does that? What does she gave the answer ultimately and completely?
And she said that she
The
had,
law controls.
Did she say she was upset with the way
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.